Alright, the boys are down for their nap, so I'm going to finally spin some fiber. And what I'm going to spin is this braid of Cordale, I believe it is. Nope, fine Shetland from Prairie Dye Studios. I've got 4.25 ounces and it's Hyacinth is the colorway here. This is some fiber that I picked up from her Etsy shop about maybe close to a month ago now. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and spin it on my, and mind the baby stuff, or don't mind the baby stuff. When you've got 5-month-old twins, your house is taken over all the time. But I'm going to go ahead and spin it on my Ashford Kiwi, which I carried down from my spare room slash, creative suite upstairs, if you will. Not really. We don't have a ton of space in our place, but I'm going to have to swap out my bobbin. On the bobbin currently, what I have is some of the BFL fleece that I'm spinning. It's been a while since I've spun anything. In fact, it's been since the Tour de Fleece, which would have been, I guess, in June, during which time I spun for all of 2 days of it and got that much of this fleece onto my bobbin. So I'm going to go ahead and put that aside so I can spin something pretty and colorful right now. I'm filming this on my phone, so I don't have my tripod handy, so I'm going to go ahead and try and pull this bobbin off one-handed and see how that works. So when changing my bobbin over, just when I'm not spinning, I just wrap around my brake band tension knob, the fiber that's coming out of the orifice, so that it doesn't, so that it's ready to go for next time I'm going to work on it. I know it's a terrible, terrible faux pas to leave your wheel with the drive band on under tension, but to be honest, my life is too hectic to do things the proper way. So on my Ashford Kiwi, to grab the bobbin off, you can just pop the orifice up. I guess I should have pulled my brake band and my drive band off first, and the bobbin, the whole flyer assembly comes off. And then I'll just park it right here and wiggle my whirls, the back end of this flyer off. Bobbin can come right off, and an empty bobbin can go on. I leave my leader yarns on my bobbins all the time. New bobbin goes on. This might be a little bit too tricky to do parked in my lap with the phone in my hand, so I'm going to put the phone down. So if my brain had been working, or if it hadn't been such a long time since I've done any spinning, before pulling my flyer off, I would have put my drive band, just stretched it up over here. It's a great place to sort of rest your drive band without losing it, having it come off the wheel, and unhook my brake band. But it doesn't hurt to just pull your flyer off, and then you just have to reset up your drive and your brake band. So the end of your flyer goes in here, and then the front end of the orifice just clips down into place, and you are good to go. Like I said, I leave my leader yarns on all the time, and I put a piece of cellophane tape to prevent my leaders from spinning. A common issue for newbie spinners is that they put their leader on and they can't get anything to draw up onto the wheel. Sometimes it's just as simple as your leader is spinning around the center of your bobbin. It's not proper, but it works to just put a piece of tape on there, and that will keep your leader in place. And it may not be the problem, but it's the first thing to sort of troubleshoot if you're having issue drawing your leader up onto the wheel. So I'll go ahead and get ready to get started. I will, doing this one-handed, send my leader through this guide over here. This is a really short lead, and let's see if without my orifice threader I can send it through my orifice. Yep. Whoop. So I'll be ready to spin off of that. So here's that braid of roving. Like I said, it's hand-dyed Shetland. Typically roving like this, it's just well, this one looks like it might actually be, no, it's usually just sort of chained, and you can sort of untwist it fairly easily. I think my intention here is going to be to spin this guy up just right from the fiber, right from the roving. So I'm not going to do any carding or any other kind of prep, and spin it as fine as I can, and then Navajo ply it to keep the color gradient, because it seems to be heavier with the pink at this end and a bit heavier with the purple. So yeah, I'm going to spin it as fine as I can and then Navajo ply it. So I'm just going to go ahead and unbraid my fiber and pull off the piece and get started with spinning. There we are, ready to go. I'm going to start from this purple end. It is pretty compacted because, like I said, it just came out of the braid, and so the only sort of prep I'm going to do is to sort of just manually tease open the fiber before I draft it. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my tripod and my camcorder. I know the quality is a little bit not as high as filming off of my phone or my iPad would be, but there's no way that I can spin and hold a phone at the same time. So we will switch devices now. All right, so all I did was just pull a manageable section of fiber off of that braid of roving, and like I said, I'm just going to sort of tease it open a little bit, because when fiber comes, especially if you've ordered it through the mail, it tends to be quite tight. So just tease it open a little bit. Makes it a bit easier to spin from. Just pulled another piece back. So, and another piece. So just sectioning it out. So I have nice loose fiber ready to spin from in my hands. And since it's been a while since I've spun, I'm just going to not worry too much about technique at first and just focus on getting a fine single onto the bobbin. And then I will kind of settle into the draw, long or short, forward or back that I'm going to go with. So I guess it would be helpful if I put my drive band back on and my brake band back on. Clearly it has been quite some time since I have been on my wheel. And there we go. And don't mind the wheel moving. I'm just pushing it with my feet to get a distance from my body that works best for me, if you will. Okay, and I will stop for a second. I'm getting too much spin, so I'm going to switch over to the slower whorl, the slower drive band. I do plan on making a video showing how to determine your spin ratios based on what whorl to set your drive band onto. And let's just adjust the camera slightly so we're seeing the action in my hands a bit more. So usually I use my left hand to sort of manage the fibers, and I draft backwards with my right hand in kind of a long backwards draw. And doing it this way, long draw, I think, and it's been a while, so for me a long draw kind of makes a more worsted style yarn, but since we're coming from fiber that is carded and not comb, so this is a roving, which means that the fiber is not all aligned in the same direction. If you do a backwards kind of draw like this, you end up with a worsted style, but essentially woolen yarn. The only way you can get a true worsted yarn is to use fiber which is carded and then combed so that all of the fibers are aligned in the same orientation. That would be more of a top, not a roving. But yeah, I think I've kind of found a groove here. Still have quite a bit of twist in my yarn, but since I'm going to Navajo ply it, you want to have a little bit too much twist in your singles. And just aiming for a consistent, fine kind of lace weight single. Oh, and there we go, broke my fiber. Broke my yarn, guys. Gonna need to go get my orifice hook. I think that is upstairs somewhere because I won't be able to get this through. So we'll pause and come back. So my actual orifice hook appears to be temporarily misplaced, but in a pinch a crochet hook works as well. Just like that. And let's pull it back out. Grab my fiber. Build up some twist. Lay the fiber in for a join. And then draft them into each other. So, as for spinning consistent signals for me, I consider myself to be a very novice spinner. And I do everything just by feel. I don't count my treadles, and I don't draft consistently. I just go for it. I think that when beginner spinners start out, it can be really intimidating trying to push for a perfectly consistent, equal twist per inch throughout your whole yarn, single, and then perfectly consistent 2-plies. And my opinion so far, or my attitude towards spinning so far, has been to just get on your wheel and spin. And you will produce a yarn, maybe not your very first one, but if you get on your wheel and spin enough, and when I first brought my wheel home, I spun through probably 4 or 5 pounds of fiber within the first 2 months. If you get on your wheel and spin enough, your hands will find a place that produces a yarn that you are happy working with. It may have some lumpy spots. It may not be, the most consistent yarn. It may not approach commercial grade, but it will be workable. And the more you do it, the more consistent, the more even your yarns will be. And that will happen without counting your treadles or, using a specific and, proper, if you will, drafting technique. Now, that being said, you will be limited because you won't be able to sit down and plan out necessarily the yarn that you want. You kind of are going to get the yarn that your hands and your fiber decides to make. So I do intend to eventually, in all of my free time with baby twins, but one day do the full master spinning course that's offered through Olds College, and learn how to spin more intentionally. But it doesn't take away any of the functionality of the yarns that I'm making in the meantime. It doesn't take away any of the beauty of the yarns that I'm making in the meantime. So, yeah, just doing what my hands seem to want to do with the fiber. So you could sit here and watch a very, very boring video of me spinning this entire 4 and a bit ounce braid, or I can go ahead and stop recording now and come back when I am ready to ply my singles. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Alright, so yesterday I spun almost the entire braid, and this morning I just polished off the last, I had maybe like 2 inches of the roving left, and there's my bobbin chock full of beautiful singles. Right now you would think that the whole braid was pink, just from the way that I filled my bobbin, but you can't see all of the beautiful purples and blues that are underneath. So I'm going to pop this bobbin off, throw a new bobbin on, and get started with the Navajo ply. Okay, so this time I'm going to pop the bobbin off correctly by moving my drive band and removing my brake band. Take off the flyer, pop off the whorls, and I find on this Ashford Kiwi too, this back whorl really needs some wiggling to get off. A little bit of grease might help that, but you know, too lazy for that. Anyways, so there's my bobbin full of the singles. Here's an empty bobbin ready to go on to my flyer. And wiggle that piece back on. In here, brake band, drive band. And let's go ahead, look, there's still a tiny bit of what I'm assuming is fin left on here from the last time I spun with this bobbin. So this one here has a excessively long leader on it, so I'm just going to go ahead, throw it through a guide, through this guide, and then thread my orifice, which I'm still using a crochet hook for since my orifice hook is MIA. And I don't have a separate Lazy Kate, so I just use the Lazy Kate that comes attached to the Ashford Kiwi, which is essentially just 2 pegs down by the treadles. So let's look a little bit closer at what I'm going to do with my hands here. Navajo or chain plying is essentially the same motion as single crochet, except doing it with your hands. And so single crochet is of course going to start with a loop. And what I'm going to do to get started is put that loop through the loop in my lead yarn. I could have made it bigger, but I didn't. And then pull some through here. So then what you always end up having is a loop in one hand and a single in the other, and you pull through and you just sort of chain ply as you go, which produces a 3-ply yarn. And because we are plying, we go in the opposite direction, and of course I broke my yarn already. So let's just get started. And it's been a really, really, really long time since I've done any Navajo plying, and I think I may have only ever done it once or twice to begin with, so we'll see how even and consistent this is able to go. And again, I'm not counting my treadles. I'm just trying to treadle consistently and feed the yarn onto the bobbin at a consistent speed. And then once I've done a little bit of that, I'll stop, pull back, and see. I'm not quite balanced because I've got a kink, so probably need to be feeding on a little bit. Let's see, are we over twisted or under twisted right now? Just a tiny bit over twisted. It's really not too much, and I might just continue like this because a little bit of over twist you can set out of your finished yarn. Mind my bare legs. I am wearing shorts, I promise. Whoops. Alright, so how do I deal with breaks when I'm chain plying? So I have a break, so instead of having 3 strands, I have 2. So what you want to do is loop the broken bit back up, ply it in to make a loop, pull through a new loop, and back you have 3 again. So I think the next couple projects that I spin, I'm going to want to go ahead and Navajo ply, since it is a skill that I haven't practiced as much as I'd like. I will come back to you with the finished bobbin full of plied yarn. And there is my finished chain plied yarn. So next up I need to skein this off the bobbin. Then I'm going to set my twist with steam and then full my yarn, just to sort of show you 2 different approaches to finishing your yarn. Hard to believe that this dark bobbin had all of those lovely light pink singles on it just about an hour earlier, but they're all on the inside and all the purples and blues are on the outside now. So I need to skein my yarn off of the bobbin onto my Nitty Naughty. I just picked up a new Nitty Naughty recently from just the Knit Picks one, and helpful is to measure your Nitty Naughty's skein length, and mine's 72 inches. So to pull my yarn off the bobbin, you want to remove your drive band and your brake band so that everything can spin freely. And actually we'll leave the drive band on, so just the brake band off. That's going to discourage the flyer from moving but allow the bobbin to spin freely. And then just grab an end and start winding it off. And it's going to take me a second or 2 to get used to the new Nitty Naughty. So I've skeined it up on my Nitty Naughty. I went ahead and tied 4 figure-8 ties, one on each of the sections. The 2 ends of the skeins I just tie on, there's one there, and the other one right here. And then I went ahead and counted my, my loops around the Nitty Naughty. I have 80 wraps exactly, so 80 by 72 inches is gonna give me about, or exactly 160 yards of yarn, which right now feels to be between a DK and a worsted throughout. So I can pop this off my Nitty Naughty. You'll see that the Knit Picks Nitty Naughty has one end with a lip and one end which is rounded, and so you can just slide your yarn off the rounded end. Obviously it's easier when you're not holding a phone with one hand. And you'll see that my skein does have some twist, and I'm going to go ahead and set that twist out by steaming it. So when it comes to my hand spun, you have 2 sort of options when you're finished spinning your yarn and you want to finish it. You can choose to just set the twist, or you can set the twist and also full the yarn. So I am going to full this one, but I did want to show you how I would set the twist without soaking, without fulling my yarn. This is great for yarns that that are art yarns usually, or things that have very loosely spun sections or thick and thin sections where you might want to preserve the texture that you spun into the yarn. It's great for delicate fibers. Yeah, so if you don't want to go ahead and soak your yarn, you do still want to set the twist and finish your yarn, and it'll also help you correct any over twistedness in your skein. So what I do is I steam my yarn. So you can hang it from anything, and then I just use a clothing steamer on high, and with a little bit of tension on the bottom of the yarn, I just go ahead and steam directly into my skein of yarn. And it's basically, because yarn is a protein fiber, you can think of this as straightening your hair. Yarn has memory, obviously, so with a little bit of tension on it and the heat and the moisture, you can already see this section is hanging a lot straighter and without that extra twist. And come around to the other side, and this will take any kinks out of your skein. But like I said, this would be safe for highly textured art yarns, especially if you're doing an art yarn. I wouldn't, like, I'm pressing my steamer right against my skein. If you were doing something even more delicate, I wouldn't press the steamer on. And then you do want to go all the way around the skein, so I'll switch to the next tie. Put a little bit of tension on the bottom. Steam one side, flip it, steam the other side. Go to the next tie, and I'm just repeating this all the way around my skein. And one last time. So before, when I hung my skein, it was twisting back on itself, and now you can see that it hangs nicely and without any twist. It hangs like a nice open skein. So I'm not sure where I picked this up, but at some point when I was learning how to spin, the directions that I received were that you do always want in your finished skein to be a little bit over twisted, so that when you set the twist, after you set the twist, you have a skein that hangs open, because when you do this it does relax all of the fibers. So if you have a skein that before you set your twist or before you full it hangs open, and then you go ahead and set it and relax the fibers further, I think you can kind of get some untwisting of the yarn. I wouldn't quote me on that, but it is something that I do recall learning. So you could stop here, but because this is a woolen spun yarn, and because, to be honest, the Shetland is not the softest fiber, I do want to go ahead and full my yarn. And in addition, when I soak it, I'm going to put some conditioner, so just regular hair conditioner, in the soap water to hopefully soften out the yarn just a little bit more. So I probably won't film that. Essentially, I'm just going to fill up the kitchen sink with some water, and have one side of the sink with hot water, one side with cold water, and go back and forth a couple times between the two. It borderlines on a felting process, but it's going to really ensure that your yarn has some integrity to it. It'll open up the fibers even more and soften the overall yarn, and then hopefully the conditioner helps. Then I'm going to take it outside and thwack it against the house, and then hang it. If I hadn't done the steaming process, or if I wasn't going to do the steaming process, when you hang a wet yarn, a skein to dry, you want to put a little bit of weight on the bottom, and that will open up and set twist as well. So I will show you, I'll do all that, and then I'll show you the finished yarn and let you know what I think about it. So here's my finished, now that it's been set and dried and fulled, skein of yarn. The conditioning did help a fair amount, the conditioning and the fulling in the water, as far as improving the softness, but this is certainly not something that I would ever call next to skin soft. So I'm kind of right now at a loss of what to do with it, although that often is the case with most of my hand spun. I spin it and then it accumulates in my stash, and I don't necessarily use most of it right away. So if you have an idea of what you would knit or crochet, or maybe I'll save it and one day weave. I did used to have a Cricut loom. But if you have an idea of what you would use, a sort of wouldn't say self-striping, but it does kind of color block through a gradient between the hot pink, the blue, the light pink, the purple. What you would do with about 160 yards of worsted, approximately weight, 3-ply Shetland yarn, so not soft for skin. Let me know what you would do with it in the comments below. Yeah, because I'm at a loss. I guess I could always knit a hat and use the technique that Nina, the knitting expat, shared on one of her recent podcast episodes, which is to knit the hat with a folded brim or a liner in a softer fingering weight merino on the inside, so that you have soft yarn close to skin and fun handspun yarn where the world can see it. Anyways, this is the first skein of my planned sit and spin series. So I'm going to be going ahead and sharing whatever spinning projects I do in the future here on my channel in this manner. So I am of course open to any input on what you'd like to see different. I apologize for some of the shaky camera work with my cell phone, I will improve that. I'm going to look into options to get a mount for my phone on my tripod because the video quality is actually really quite great. This is the Google Pixel that I'm filming on. But yeah, so if you have anything in specific that you would like to see in the future from Sit and Spin videos, let me know. If you have a good idea of what I should make with this skein of yarn, let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, please give it a like or a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on any of the goodness that is coming out of the Yarn Lab. In the meantime, happy spinning and happy experimenting with fiber, guys.